1. Nastya. In a great mood, I turned the key in the iron door. I managed to push it open and immediately dropped the bag right onto the floor. Phew. It was heavy, but it was worth it, even though my arms hurt like crazy. I'm going to give Igor such a surprise right now. He'll go nuts. So, I quickly took off my sneakers and got to work. First, cleaning the apartment, and then everything else. I would love to call this place home, but I couldn't bring myself to say it. For now, my home was the dorm. A nice room for just 2 people. My boyfriend and I would come here sometimes and spend the night. You know, so no one would disturb us. I blushed again. 20 years old. Not a girl anymore, for about 2 years now, and still like this. Igor keeps complaining that I'm too reserved. Not a complete bore, of course, but not the wild, uninhibited girl he sometimes wishes I'd be. But we'll fix that. I looked around the room critically. It was the only livable space in this 2-room apartment. The contractor's basic renovation felt very uncomfortable. Linoleum floors and paper wallpaper. The doors were peeling and didn't close properly, and in the bathroom the peach-colored painted walls were starting to peel off. Basically, this apartment was barely used. It belonged to Igor's relatives, but they didn't live here and didn't want to rent it out, saying, "Who knows who will mess it up?" So, they gave it to their nephew, so to speak, for his personal pleasure. Why do I keep blushing? I cleaned up, brought in a throw, a couple of colorful pillows, a kettle, some pretty bright mugs, tea, and some snacks. Igor's laptop was here too, the one we sometimes used to watch movies on. I stood in the middle of the room in rubber gloves, blissfully smiling at the old creaky couch. I loved my boyfriend very much, and he loved me. He was tall, muscular, really strong, with piercing blue eyes. I melted every time he looked at me. If only Igor didn't criticize me 100 times a day. But hey, he's a man, and many of them are fussy. Not that I had anything to compare him to. Igor was my first, and I hoped he would be my last. I really wanted him to ask me to marry him, but I knew it was too soon for that. He was 5 years older than me, already working as a lawyer, with his own business and a successful family enterprise. And here I was, just finishing my 3rd year at the Polytechnic Institute. Marriage? No way. He even told me, "What? Should I wait for you to finish your classes? When you graduate, we'll see. But for now, stop with this kindergarten talk." I hadn't even started. I would have already moved in with him. After all, we've been together for 2 years. But Igor flat out refused. He said this apartment wasn't suitable for living. No renovation, not even a proper kitchen. Yet, last year his friends lived here for 2 months before their wedding. But my beloved preferred living with his parents. His mom cooked delicious meals, and his dad gave him money for expenses. It was nice that they liked me a lot, and were proud that their son had such a wonderful girlfriend. The cleaning went by in a flash since I was in a great mood. I swept the floor with the old broom, then mopped by hand. After that, I wiped the dust from all the horizontal surfaces and changed the sheets on the old couch. On one side of it, the spring stuck out. I always slept on that side because Igor couldn't bear it. Understandably, with his weight and muscles, the springs dug into him more. Sometimes during our intimacy, he'd accidentally roll over and scream as if he'd been wronged. Usually, I was the one to blame. In bed, I often, if not regularly, did everything wrong. Although how exactly to do it right, Igor couldn't explain either. He just got angry, and then said that as a woman, I should naturally feel these things. And yet, not only did I not feel them, I made mistakes out of nowhere. Honestly, intimacy had turned into a kind of chore for me. I was always scared of hearing complaints, and during those moments, I often tried to guess what to do and how. and I apologized. Often. In the way Igor liked best. My ears turned red again like a lobster. But it was okay. I'd get used to it. I sighed heavily. The main thing was that Mom didn't call at the most crucial moment. She always got angry when I came here for the night. She didn't like Igor, to put it mildly. She thought he wasn't good enough for me and was just messing with my head. And then there's the fact that he still hasn't proposed, even though we've been together for 2 years. She said that if a guy didn't propose in the first year, he'd never do it. But I knew that our relationship was strong and real. And Igor said he loved me too. Especially after a drink. He always boasted that I was his beautiful, pure girl. He was a bit obsessed with that. And I melted at those moments. Though my mom said all sorts of things about me. About how I should wait until marriage and all that. I also dreamed of having just one man for my whole life. But I was modern enough not to take it to an extreme. We're all adults with our own needs. I finished cleaning, set out the snacks, and put a bottle of wine in the fridge. I placed candles around. I put on a brand new maid costume from the sex shop. I spent my entire stipend on it. Igor would definitely love it. He was really into that sort of thing. Now, I just needed to put on some music. I opened VK. I opened the laptop, but it wasn't my page that was loaded. It was Igor's. Strange. He never left it open and would get mad if he did. He strictly forbade me from touching his personal space. I wasn't perfect. Just a peek. Besides, I was quite jealous. Inside. I wasn't allowed to voice such things out loud, or my beloved would get angry. So I remembered where he had left it and carefully opened his messages. I wouldn't find anything and would just go back to getting ready. But the Messages tab was filled with unread messages from someone named Lydia. With trembling fingers, I clicked on the conversation. I immediately covered my mouth in horror to stop myself from screaming. Chapter 2. Now take the ice cube and run it between your folds. I feel so hot. I want you to grab your squeeze it, then rub it with your hands. I couldn't stop reading. And even though it made me sick, I knew Igor really wrote this, his style, his phrases, even his vulgar jokes. Not to mention it was his page on VK. I didn't even realize when I stopped scrolling and just froze. Like a complete fool. Sitting there in a cleaner's costume from a sex shop. My stockings were off to the side. I hadn't had time to put them on. I used to wear them often. I'd put them on, hoping to please him. To turn him on and make him forget that in his mind I wasn't good enough. But then he said he was tired of it, and asked me not to wear them as often. Said it didn't excite him anymore. But did it excite him that one time when I wore stockings to the restaurant in minus 17 degrees for New Year's Eve? No, I'm not a pushover, not completely spineless. But now, the pain inside was growing. What did he see in this? What's her name? Lydia. Just an ordinary pretty girl. Nothing special. I'm no worse, and I'm willing to do so much for him. His hurtful words suddenly surfaced in my mind. You don't kiss right, Nastya. That's it. I don't want to do anything with you right now. Why do you just lie there like a log? Can't you move a bit sexier? In that outfit, you don't turn me on at all. Why do you dress like a nun? So what if it's comfortable? You came to see your boyfriend, not to dig potatoes. I bit my lip as angry tears welled up in my eyes. So this is what, in his opinion, a desirable, liberated woman looks like. Yeah, I get it. I wiped the tears quickly, trying not to smudge my makeup. Igor would be home soon, and I had to decide what to do about this. What would he say when I confronted him? This was cheating. Or was it? It was online, just in the messages. But one thing I knew for sure, I couldn't stay silent. Though maybe I shouldn't even bring it up. But the fire was already raging inside. I quickly sent her profile to myself in a message and cleaned up the evidence. I even logged out of his account, something I immediately regretted. I should have looked deeper, but now I had no password. The minutes until Igor's arrival stretched into eternity. I jumped at every little noise. How could he? This was virtual sex with another woman. And what if I had done something like this? I couldn't even imagine discussing these things. Igor was my one and only, the first man who had ever touched my body like that. Sure, I had guys before him, and there were kisses and touches, but I had never let anyone go further. I was so proud later that I didn't lose my virginity until I was 18. It felt so nice when Igor appreciated that. And now, what should I do? My mother's words suddenly echoed in my head. She didn't like him, said I'd regret it. She pointed out that he didn't even help plant the potatoes in the spring, something a good man with serious intentions wouldn't skip. We lived in the countryside, not poor, but not as wealthy as Igor. He was the one who took me to a restaurant for the first time, showed me fancy clubs. Sometimes he even bought me clothes. But I knew it was all his parents' money, his own salary he spent in a week. I felt like I was hit by lightning when I heard the key turn in the door. I'd managed to find out the girl wasn't from our city, but from the northern capital. That's far away, really far. They clearly didn't know each other in real life. Or did they? Where could they have met? He hardly ever travels. A month ago he went abroad with the guys, and that's it. But all they did there was drink, and later tell funny stories at parties. I laughed along with everyone else. He didn't cheat on me. We've been together for 2 years. Still, the door swung open mercilessly, and in walked Igor. As always, impeccably dressed, in fancy shoes, a branded polo and jeans. My mom called him a dandy because of his appearance and love for clothes that highlighted his muscles. I was always proud of his figure, and I loved pressing myself against him, his soft, toned body. But now, wow, Nastya, it's getting hot in here. Come here, my naughty teacher. Maid, traitor. But somehow the fear of disappointing him outweighed common sense. I stood up and, on stiff legs, walked over to him. I let him kiss me and bury his face between my breasts in a caress that was supposedly pleasant for me. I can't do this. I won't stay silent. But inside, there was still a struggle. I was afraid that if I accused him, I might have misunderstood something. Then he'd be offended, disappointed in me, and actually cheat out of spite. Then he'd really have a reason to rub it in my face. And I really didn't want that. I was terrified of losing him. Who would want me like this? With all my sexual problems, doing everything wrong. Baby, what's wrong? Oh, nothing. I just didn't have time to get the ice ready, to run it between my folds. He froze. He looked at me with suspicion, pushing me aside, and I already regretted blurting it out. I should have stayed silent, accepted it. Why did I even bring it up? It was just virtual. His face became hard, his eyes cold. His voice threatening, he said in a low tone, I don't understand, Nastya. Have you been snooping through my private messages? Have you completely lost your mind? Chapter 3. Girlfriend, are you serious right now? I looked at Lilia, my roommate and best friend. She was sitting next to me on the bed with the demeanor of a wise relationship guru, listening to me. I had shown up yesterday evening, all teary and wound up. I had gotten quite a lecture from Igor. He told me how brazen, distrustful, and incapable I was of keeping my hands off his personal life. He wouldn't even listen to my argument that his behavior was abnormal. In his opinion, what was abnormal was snooping through someone else's messages. As for that girl, you're just still young, Nastya. You'll grow up and understand everything. But for now, don't get your head full of it. There was no cheating, not even close. but I'm disappointed in you." Sitting on the bed, hugging myself, I rocked back and forth, hoping that it would clear my head and I'd be able to think straight. I needed that to figure out how to act now, how to apologize. Nevertheless, a nagging thought kept circling in my mind, which I finally voiced. I should have stayed quiet, Lilia. Seriously? And it doesn't bother you that your, boyfriend is a jerk and an abuser to boot? Who? I stared at her in confusion. A veil of tears clouded my vision, but I could still make out her freckled face quite clearly. Abuser. Heard of those? They're the type of guys who humiliate you to feel like kings of the gas station. I just waved it off. Abuser, schma-buser, or whatever. Igor is great. Sure, he's picky. But any guy of his level would be demanding. In their group, they're all like that. The golden youth of this city. I always felt awkward at those parties. Shy, especially when I didn't let Igor go further with me. I said the wrong things, made people laugh. They were all older, and the girls in that crowd never stayed long. Just me and one other girl were regulars, but she was significantly older and kind of took me under her wing. For me, the fact that I'd been Igor's girlfriend for a long time was always the most pleasant thing. I was the constant, the favorite, his faithful, pure girl. Yeah, right. Lilia, the kind of guys you're talking about don't take their girls out to restaurants and treat them like queens. You're such a fool, Nastya, and Igor is a jerk. Lilia! I turned away from her. I was already feeling sick to my stomach. I had just listened to a whole lecture from my boyfriend, and now one from her too. I know he loves me. When he's drunk, he dedicates all his songs to me, calls me non-stop, and floods me with messages about how lucky he is to have me in his life. So it was great that he forgave me for yesterday. Though I had to apologize in the oldest way known to humankind, it's still hard to walk. Listen, if it wasn't cheating, then why don't you not cheat on him too? Get some experience yourself, since that jerk pushes you around in bed. Lilia. I blushed down to my ears. Sure, I'm chatty, but some things are just too personal. There was one time we drank mead from her mom's stash, and I had just gone through another scolding from Igor, so I unloaded on Lilia, and that traitor remembered it. That's personal. Just like him getting off to another girl on his computer. I turned away from her. Honestly, it hurt so much I couldn't take it. And she was poking at the wound, making it worse. I really didn't understand what I had done wrong. If only he could be in my shoes. But he wouldn't be. Because I was too scared to even sneeze in the direction of other guys. Just in case. And it would never even occur to me to write filthy things to someone online. All right, I'm sorry, Nastya. You're my best friend, and I worry about you. I know it's hard to take the wool off your eyes, but I really wish you could. She hugged me, and I got emotional. I started crying, and we sat there together for about 10 more minutes. Finally, Lilia gently pulled away and went for my laptop. I watched her actions distantly. What are you up to? I pulled the blanket over my head, gloomily leaning against the wall. It felt icy despite it being summer. I'm conducting an investigation. Sorry, but something isn't right here. I didn't even have the strength to argue with her. What did she think she'd find? There were no messages left on my profile. He must have deleted everything, I hoped. But I completely underestimated my friend's approach to the situation. In just a couple of minutes, she let out a wicked chuckle and angrily started typing something, muttering to herself. That little tramp, she saw his profile photos. He even has one with you right on his wall. At first, I didn't understand what she was talking about, or who, but then it hit me like a ton of bricks. I jumped up in an instant, but before I could take 2 steps toward her and the computer, I heard her triumphant voice. I knew it. I nearly ran into her, but then froze. A chill ran down my spine, and suddenly, I wasn't sure if I wanted to know what exactly she had discovered. Because if it escalated further, then what? Argue with him again? Still, Lilia turned around, frowning at me, then spun the laptop screen toward me and asked, "Which hotel did you say your dear boyfriend stayed at this summer?" But I already understood. Or rather, I saw. Because right there on the screen was a sexy photo of that same girl, the one with the ice cube from the messages, in front of the reception desk of the same hotel where Igor had stayed. Maybe. But as I got closer, I saw the date on the photo and closed my eyes. He had been in Turkey at the same time as that girl, and given all the other signs. Chapter 4. Igor, what does this mean? No, life definitely isn't teaching me anything. This is clear from one simple conclusion. I'm standing in front of my husband's house, holding a phone. On it, there's a picture of that girl, taken at the hotel where they were staying. Together. At the same time. Of course, I understand that digging through dirty laundry is a bad idea, but I didn't just fall off a turnip truck either. Besides, I messaged her. I wrote and tried to find out everything through some roundabout ways. Nastya, did you hit your head or something? Why are you showing me random pictures? But his Adam's apple twitched. I noticed. My mood shifted from miserable to murderous rage. But what do I do next if he denies everything? I just have to find out. I must. This is the girl you were messaging with back then. Recognize the place? He squinted his eyes. My heart sank. This is the look he gives when he's trying to insist on his point and break me down, to knock the nonsense out of my head, as if I'm a little girl, though we're only 5 years apart. I almost took a step back. No, I need to know, and if he's guilty, he won't just let me go. So I stood there, waiting for an answer, but I never imagined it would turn out like this. Igor crossed his arms over his chest and looked at me mockingly. I could practically read all those words in his eyes that I had heard before, though he said something new this time. Nastya, do you want to fight? Fine, let's fight. I didn't cheat on you, period. Any more questions? His pressure and confidence, as always, knocked the righteousness right out of me, and I hesitated. That was all it took for him to immediately sense my weakness and pounce on it. Go ahead and accuse me of something that never happened. Sure, I played around a bit with some messages. Yeah, we hung out. But nothing happened. We just had a laugh in the club with the group. By the way, she has a boyfriend. I swallowed hard. She had told me almost exactly the same thing. I've never dealt with women like her, but this girl turned out to be surprisingly condescending. She immediately took it upon herself to lecture me, as if I were a naive child and she had seen it all. She had turned down guys before, traveled to Turkey without her boyfriend, and, well, she told me I was a good girl, but I'd made a mistake. Then she launched into a lecture about men like my Igor, that they're cool and worth holding on to. In the end, our conversation turned into something completely incomprehensible. I closed my eyes, and when I opened them, Igor, that thing you did with her, the messaging. Babe, virtual stuff doesn't count. It's just texting. I closed my eyes again. I was trembling. For the last 2 days, my mood had been like a roller coaster. I was both scared to uncover the truth and didn't want to let it slide either. So, I straightened my shoulders and said, "So I can go get some experience too, then?" You should have seen his face. That rare moment when I actually managed to trap him in his own logic, hit him with his own weapon. After all, He just said that virtual stuff doesn't count. He blushed, looked me up and down, and replied, "Are you saying you're going to pay me back the same way? What is this? Kindergarten, Nastya?" "Why not? After all, you're always telling me I'm inexperienced and not like that. If it doesn't count, then I'll go and get some experience." "Nastya." He took a threatening step toward me. I backed up, but I didn't lower my gaze. I stared back defiantly. "It's simple, right? Just virtual, no big deal. Well, I can do it too." "What, Nastya?" He examined me closely, then suddenly smiled. He pulled me into his arms, kissed the top of my head, and laughed. "All right, inexperienced one, go ahead and try it. Once you've tried, I'll give you a full exam." He winked at me and burst out laughing. He didn't believe me. He didn't believe I'd actually pay him back with the same coin. But oh, it's dangerous to dare me. We'll see who wins in the end. "Deal." I slipped out of his embrace. Our conversation wasn't going anywhere, and within a couple of minutes I was ready to head home. Back to the dorm. I needed Lilia to help bring my daring plan to life, before I changed my mind. Igor gave me a ride. We sat in silence in the car. He was smugly grinning, and I was staring gloomily out the window. Now, out of principle, I was going to try this. The whole virtual thing, I mean. "So, my little virtual tigress, you haven't changed your mind?" I shuddered. An hour ago, I was all geared up for a showdown. I thought I was going to expose him, make him see that he was in the wrong, but here I was, driving back to the dorm like a drenched kitten, and Igor was laughing at me, taunting me, not believing for a second that I'd actually go through with it. He was smirking the entire way, glancing at me now and then. I pulled out my phone and messaged Lilia. I needed support. While I still had the drive and the desire to spite him, I had to grab the bull by the horns. Or whatever you grab in the virtual world. I had no idea. When the car stopped, Igor turned and looked at me mockingly. "So, should I give you some site recommendations for that? Or are you going to get scammed?" "No need," I muttered, realizing how dumb you'd have to be to out yourself like this. I got out of the car and confidently, without looking back, headed toward my first unconventional sexual experience. Hopefully.
Chapter 5. Potap. "No, Misha. Yes. What the hell? Am I supposed to do his job too? Why isn't the sysadmin responding?" I slammed the office phone onto the desk. This is a complete mess. I genuinely didn't understand why some people even had balls if they only used them once a year out of obligation. Only idiots work with me. Why is it so hard to find qualified staff in the 21st century? My company was young but very promising. I had fought tooth and nail to secure the top spot in the city and was now ready to expand across the country. But how can I do that when the highest paid and most valuable employees, the IT guys, act like they're brides-to-be? I rubbed my nose bridge. I hadn't been to the gym in a couple of days, and with Karina, it had been even longer. I was starting to feel like a frustrated teenager. I hadn't gone more than a week without sex in ages. By 30, I had seemingly turned my life into a well-oiled machine. 4 workouts a week, sex as often as possible with a trusted lover, with some occasional variety, and the rest of the time was dedicated to work. Still, this past week, everything had gone off track, which was driving me crazy since I was used to controlling everything to the max. No steps back, no steps to the side, clear goals, and "Potap Markovich, may I?" I gritted my teeth. My new accountant annoyed me. Even Karina, who usually reacted calmly to my flings, had pointed out last time that this was too much. "No. Natalia Vladimirovna, the workday is over, and all matters in your jurisdiction should be closed. What are you doing in the office at this hour?" The greedy, suggestive look she gave me which revealed her intentions long before she even realized it herself, said it all. She came to screw. She thought that if she had slept with me a couple of times at the office, I owed her a bonus. With an attitude like that, she wouldn't last long here. I never denied myself pleasures, but I preferred smart, self-aware women, experienced and liberated. Women who knew what they wanted, or rather who they wanted, and who understood that for me, it was just sex. I never led them on or pretended to be some potential boyfriend. Sorry, I just thought, since the IT guys are staying late, she wasn't stupid. She knew how to distract my anger at her sudden appearance, prepared even. I'd deal with her later, but for now, where are they? Oh, Natalia Vladimirovna, if you're not as good at accounting as you are at giving a deep blowjob, we'll be parting ways within the month. I won't tolerate such behavior in the office. I already spend a hefty sum each year on HR specialists and team-building exercises. The team needs to come together, not this. She sold the guys out completely, threw them under the bus. Judging by her report, my main team had practically set up a house party in the office. After sending the snitch home, I went to investigate. I was curious what they were up to. I was tired, angry, which was the perfect recipe for a firm scolding, especially since I had an interview scheduled for a legal position tomorrow. My head of HR was raving about this candidate, but I personally conducted interviews for such positions, and I hated it. I put on my jacket, grabbed my briefcase and my latest model phone. I liked everything to be modern and expensive, in everything. Unfortunately, that didn't always work out with employees. In fact, I would say it hardly ever worked out. The office I was headed to housed 3 extremely talented but completely out-of-touch guys. Sure, I was an excellent specialist too, but in our field, those several brains working together increased efficiency exponentially. I even vengefully imagined that if I caught them doing something shady, I could demand they hit the gym. By the way, I had specially equipped the office gym for situations like this. As I approached the office, I heard some commotion and excited but hushed voices inside. I got closer and listened in. Wow, we really got lucky. Are you sure she doesn't know the camera's on? Of course, it only took 2 seconds to hack into her computer. Tell her to take off her bra. Wait, don't rush it. We'll scare her off. It's clear it's her first time. At first, I didn't understand what they were talking about. I peeked through the slightly open door and, holy shit, they'd completely lost their minds. I had expected to see anything a party, pizza, maybe some late-night work, but not the scared, embarrassed face of a cute girl on 4 screens. These IT guys, damn them, were about to engage in virtual sex right in my office. But what really threw me off wasn't that. It was the fact that in the top right corner of the notorious site for such activities, I saw the real avatar of one of the guys, under the name Potap. He had used my name on a virtual sex site. I already had a bit of a grudge against him, but this approach drove me up the wall. Why not Slava or Gleb? Why drag me into this? As I simmered with anger, my eyes involuntarily locked onto the girl. Confused, embarrassed, she had no idea she'd become the unwitting victim of my guys. For a moment, I even got caught up looking at her. Expressive gray-blue eyes, full lips, shaped like a bow. And under her top, you could clearly see a confident size 4. I'd say that's a bingo. Tell her to take off her top. Slava was practically jumping out of his pants, while Gleb furiously typed away. The girl bit her lip and reached for her shirt. I frowned. I don't know why, but I suddenly didn't want to watch this anymore. Or rather, I didn't want them watching, so I abruptly walked into the office. Now get the hell out of here, you wannabe sex bombs, both of you. In my office tomorrow morning at 8 sharp. The guys flinched, looked at me as if I were the second coming, then stood up in sync and silently ran out of the room. And then I realized I was left alone with the girl. I should have just walked out, ended the connection. But then she reached for her laptop and, in a slightly husky voice from nerves, asked, "Potap?" That potap finally pushed me over the edge. I loosened my tie and sat down in the spinning chair.